people think that communication is their biggest problem, right? That if they could just communicate better, or if their partner would listen better without getting defensive, or if someone could just bring things up in a softer, more supportive way, that their relationship would get better. But that's not the actual problem. Communication is a symptom of the actual problem, and learning how to communicate better is not actually going to be the thing that helps your relationship change. Honestly, you could learn all of the greatest communication skills in the world, and they're not going to do shit if you're not learning the actual skill set that you need to change and improve your relationship. The good news is, A, that's what I'm going to talk about today. And B, when you learn this skill set, communication actually gets better and easier too. So, if you want to know what this skill is, what it's really going to take to create change in your relationships, to revolutionize our relationships, then stay tuned for this catalyst conversation, because it's exactly what we're going to get into today. Welcome, my friends, to another catalyst conversation for the relationship revolution. Here we disrupt the old stories about power and love and partnership, and we activate new ways of leading our relationships consciously, courageously, differently, by what it really means to love. You know, and we talked about this last episode, what it really means to love. And I have these conversations because the truth is that the way that we have been taught to love, to do relationships, isn't working. This month, we're diving deep into the relationship revolution itself. Like, what is it? Why do we need it? What does it mean? What does it look like to revolutionize our relationships? This is a fundamental paradigm shift in how we love, how we relate, how we lead. And it starts at the most intimate level, our intimate partner relationships, but it ripples outward, affecting and elevating every other relationship in our life, changing the global landscape of how we live, how we engage, how we relate, because everything is relationships, right? So in this conversation so far, in our relationship revolution episodes, we've done some really important shifting. If you haven't caught the first 3 episodes, this is episode 4, I want to invite you to go back and listen to them, because each shift lays a foundation for the next, which doesn't make this conversation irrelevant. Stay for this conversation, even if you haven't heard the other ones yet. And as you listen to these conversations in order, they will make a deeper level of sense. They will hit differently, because you're going to have that, like, that foundational building blocks to really grasp the depth and the bigness of what it is that I am trying to share with you here. But in quick review, our first conversation, our shift was away from this me versus you thing that happens all the time, and into a genuine us partnership. In the second week, we moved away from blame and finger pointing and into what we call empowered accountability. We talked about what that really means, some of the nuance of that. And last week, we shifted and evolved our understanding of what it really means to love and what love and relationships are really here for. And so today, this is our embodiment episode, okay? This is where we move from knowing, right, like here, to being, where we move from concept into application, and talk about what it really looks like, what it is we really need to do in order to revolutionize our relationship. But before we get into all of that, for those of you who may be new to these conversations, to me, or to this work, I want to take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Dr. Jenny Wallig. I am a relationship expert, mentor, educator, speaker, author, intuitive guide, and co founder of Powerful Love Relationships alongside my partner and soulmate, Calvin. I call myself the relationship revolutionary. And it's because I am both a disruptor at heart and a creator. I believe deeply that our world desperately needs new ways of doing love and relationships. And more than just identifying and deconstructing what doesn't work, I am here to lead a movement that reorganizes, that revolutionizes, that supports the change that our love, our relationships, our world so very much needs. Nothing, my friends, truly nothing impacts the quality of our lives more than our ability to lead our relationship skillfully. Relationship skills are not nice to have skills. They are our success skills in every facet of our lives. And yet, no one teaches us what those skills are. So, that is a huge part of my mission in revolutionizing relationships by teaching you those skills, by teaching empowered accountability, relational intelligence, conscious leadership, especially for the women who, or the folks holding feminine energy in our world, who tend to be the ones carrying the relational labor, who tend to be the ones leading relationship change, asking for relationship change in our world right now. And no, that may not be fair, that we should have to do more because women and feminine embodied folks are too often carrying too much alone. And yet, we have so much power and leverage and influence right now, being the ones who have carried that over time. And so I have a fire in my heart and my belly, my womb, to support women in being like using the energy that they're already giving to transform their relationships and letting it land in a way that actually gets them the results that they're looking for, so that we can invite our men and our masculine energy to grow, to evolve, to finally fucking meet us so that we're not carrying so much alone. Make sense? In these catalyst conversations, I want you to know my goal is not just to give you insight. It is to awaken something within you so that you feel moved to step into a higher level of self, a higher level of love and relational leadership, so that you and your relationship can be part of this revolution too. If you want to help us activate and accelerate this global movement, make sure that you comment, like, and subscribe to us on YouTube. It would mean a lot and do a lot to help spread this message and this frequency. Share about our work, attend our events, and of course, do your part to continue to lead with love. If you're looking for support for yourself or your relationship, please reach out. There are numerous ways that we can support you. I'll talk about two of them at the end of this episode: the Relationship Revolution Community and my new upcoming Relationship Accelerator. But either way, for whatever reason that you are here, I'm glad that you are. You're already part of the revolution, and I thank you for that. So, you ready to get into this? Let's do it. Here's the thing that most people don't realize about our relationship problems and our relationship solutions, like what it actually takes to create change. Our problems don't live in our good intentions, or our solutions, don't live in our good intentions. Our problems don't live in our failures or fuck ups. The problems and the solutions of our relationships live in our nervous system, my friends. They show up because we have not learned how to move into consciousness, how to stay in consciousness when we are relating. So instead, what happens is we react from autopilot. Does that make sense? I'm sure that you have been there before, right? That those moments where, you are um, not being the version of you that you really want to be, where you move into self-protection instead of connection, where you're speaking from your wounds, your trauma, your fears instead of speaking from love, where you say or do shit that you don't feel very proud of on the other side of things. I mean, this is the messy, ugly, behind the scenes, you know, pull back the curtain shit of our relationships that we're all living and that I don't really hear anybody talking about. We get ugly, we get nasty, we get mean, we can be cruel, we can be very far out of alignment with who we want to be as partners or what we believe love is. And that is not a character flaw. That is a survival strategy. That is our nervous system's hardwiring. That's just kind of in there that gets activated. It happens because our body has learned, often from very early in our lives, what feels dangerous, what feels threatening, what feels familiar, what to expect of other people. And when those expectations and those um, feelings of danger, when they show up in our relationship, your nervous system is responding to protect you. So even if like cognitively we know that this isn't a threat to our life, your nervous system is still responding as if it is. When your partner shuts down or interrupts you or doesn't respond soon enough to a text message or gets defensive or doesn't um like appreciate you. These are not moments where we are responding consciously. These are moments where our nervous system is responding very quickly and reacting. And it's that moment of reaction that creates the problems, that creates the communication breakdowns, that creates the pain, the suffering, the disconnection in our relationships. One of my favorite mentors in this field, Terry Real, says that the work of relationships doesn't happen like in the big crisis. The work of relationships happens in moment to moment, like the micro moment experiences that we are having. So the skill that we need to learn, the skill that actually makes a difference, is the skill of staying conscious. It's the skill of staying in awareness, in intentionality, so that we are slowed down enough. We are in our wise minds, our wise adult self, so to speak. We are in our anchored intentionality, the part of our brains that can use skills, that wants to use skills, that remembers why it's important to use skills, because there's parts of our brains that know the skills but don't want to fucking use them, right? Like that consciousness. This is the solution. This is the difference that makes a difference. We move out of reactivity and autopilot into conscious responding. Now we have power. Now we have choice. Now we can deliberately consider what is the most loving, effective response here and make it. And that's where your power is. That's how you're going to make a difference. So I want to share something that we teach to our clients, and it's called the power formula. And it's really simple and incredibly profound. And it's this: awareness equals choice equals power. That's the power formula. Awareness equals choice equals power. What this means, what this is reminding us of, is that without awareness, without consciousness, we are not making choices. We might be very well aware, cognitive of what we're doing, what we're saying, but are you really choosing it, or are you just reacting? Right? Are you in conscious, deliberate response and doing this on purpose? Or are you just on autopilot? That's not choice. If you're on autopilot reactivity, you may have choice if you were conscious enough, if you slowed down enough, there is choice available to you, but you were not acting from choice. Does that make sense? Choice, conscious choice, is what gives us power. It gives us the power to create deliberately the outcomes that we want. It gives us the power um, to influence our relationship effectively. It gives us the power to use our prefrontal cortex, the part of our brains that hold the communication skills that you've worked so hard to learn, right? If we're not in our power, our empowerment, our consciousness, we're defaulting into trying to create change with effort, with explaining more, with trying harder, with being nicer, with pulling away or shutting down, with managing emotions instead of leading them. Those are all autopilot responses, right? This is programming that we probably have not chosen, that we probably have not thought deeply about whether it works, whether it benefits the um, the relationship as a whole, whether it serves the highest good and spiritual growth of everyone involved, as we talked about last week, right? And a- and so even when we think that like we're doing the right thing, like by being nicer, by not asking our partner to do a hard thing, I don't know that all the time, like that you've actually consciously chosen that, right? So that like consciousness isn't just about um like knowing what you're doing. It's about having the awareness of what your choices are, what choices are available to you, and then deliberately making one that's in alignment with the highest good and spiritual growth of everyone involved. So maybe I shouldn't talk about this just as consciousness. I should talk about this as critical consciousness, because that is also like a what do they call it? Like a 3 millimeter distinction that makes a really big difference. It's consciousness that you have thought through, that you have given intentional, deliberate, considerate thought to. Um, and that, a lot of the time that happens, that level of consciousness, that level of awareness, that expanding of choices happens through the practice of empowered accountability, which has its own 5-step process in practicing that skill. Essentially, though, and I don't have time to go into the 5 steps today, but essentially, empowered accountability, those 5 steps are steps to come into consciousness, critical consciousness. Okay, that is the how. Relational intelligence um, is the ability to be aware and critically conscious of how you are showing up in relationships, right? This is my understanding of relationship intelligence. It is building a skill set of this critical consciousness so that you can anticipate what response is going to have the kind of effect that you're actually looking for, and then that becomes your skills. most people miss this shift, right? We are working under this myth that if you're in a good relationship or if there's enough love there, that your relationship should just work, or that we should know what to do inherently, which is so damaging. Um, because relationships are, I think, one of the most sophisticated and challenging skills to master. We don't just learn how to do that. Like communication skills, we understand the communication skills we maybe need to learn. But what about like the essential relationship skills? Nervous system relationship, nervous system regulation skills that are so essential to staying in our consciousness, right? To staying connected to our higher selves. Those are skills that we need to learn, especially when we're activated. This this kind of self-leadership, this kind of relational intelligence and skill set, that that is what is going to create real change. This is the piece that people are missing, and it's not our personality. It's not our relationship quality. It is our level of training. And so one of the things that is so essential in this shift in the relationship revolution is an awareness that we must prioritize building our relational intelligence. That it is not something we're just going to learn or intend because we want to. Trying harder is not going to get you this end result, right? Change happens through attention, intention. Nope, sorry, I said this in the wrong order. Intention, attention, and practice. So, yes, set the intention, but how are you going to pay attention to it? How are you going to build that awareness? How are you going to build those consciousness skills? Doing that is the skill building, the relational intelligence building that allows you to practice it and then get feedback and then practice again. And that, right, that's the trying. So this shift, our fourth shift in the relationship revolution, is from like unconsciousness to consciousness. It's from a lack of relational intelligence because we have not been trained to a deliberate commitment to that training, to that ongoing growth journey of learning how to be a relational leader, learning how to do relationships well, which again, because I feel like I'm talking about a number of things and I want to be super clear. The number one relational skill we need to learn is how to stay connected to critical consciousness so we can respond instead of react. All other skills, communication skills, listening skills, like intimacy skills, emotional literacy skills, those rest upon the foundation that we can stay in consciousness, that our nervous system is not being so activated that we cannot be present, that we cannot use skills that we might have, that we don't want to use skills that we might have, right? Like, you may have noticed when your nervous system is escalated or activated that it's hard to stay calm. It's hard to speak in a soft way. You don't want to. It's hard to listen and validate. And even if you do, you might not be doing so in a way that your partner feels. It's not creating the results that you want. You might be using the skills, but because your energy is not anchored and powerful, you're not actually, like, those skills are not effective. This is a lived practice, my loves. Relational intelligence, staying in consciousness, this is not a learn it once and then you've mastered it. This is a devotion. And you will find that even when you think you've gotten really good at it, there's still more to learn. There's still more layers there, more opportunities to strengthen that skill. But I promise you, nothing is going to change your life more. Nothing is going to make your relationship better or easier. Nothing is going to help you navigate the challenges of being a human being in this life. Relationship aside, I'm talking stress, overwhelm, change, loss, uncertainty. This skill of staying anchored, of staying conscious and connected within yourself is going to support you in all of that. In ease, in joy, in faith, in love, in flow. And you're going to be a lot more resilient. You're going to be a lot more successful. You're going to be a lot more energized. You're going to have a lot more capacity. Because living in reactivity, living from non-consciousness, it takes a whole lot more work. It does. It drains a lot of energy. And it doesn't get you the results that you want. So I want you to consider, right? Like, what does that look like for you to move into consciousness? Where are you reacting instead of responding? What would it take for you to own this skill set and learn how to do it so that you might lead yourself and your relationship consciously, intentionally, and from what it really means to live? This is the kind of work, by the way, that we do in the Relationship Revolution community. And it's also what we are going to go deep in during my new 6-week accelerator, which starts in February. So I want you to tell yourselves a story. I want you to find, usually I try to give a story or an example, but today I want this to be personal. I want you to consider a time where you struggled, had a challenge, got into a conflict with your partner, and think about the reactions that you had, the automatic thoughts, the automatic conclusions, the automatic stories that went through your mind, the automatic tone that you took, the words that you said, the way that you behaved. Get aware of that. And then look for choices. What other choices might you have had in any of those areas? Consider how it may have gone differently if you had made a different choice, if you had consciously responded. And if it's too hard to think about how you could do this, start by thinking about how your partner could have, okay? Ideally, we're looking at where we can change because that's where we have power. But if that's harder, start where it's easier. Because what I want you to take away from this conversation is the value of that consciousness, the value of that choice, the power and change that gets to happen when you know how to do this. For those of you inside the Relationship Revolution community, stay tuned for your activation this week, because we are going to take this ask that I'm giving here for everyone, and we are going to go even deeper with it, in applying it, in practicing it, in embodying it, so that you are actually moving into a greater level of consciousness in your relationship. And I'm going to walk you through how we're going to do that and support you in practicing it. If you are the kind of person who knows that you want support and accountability and opportunity to actually take the things that we're learning here and talking about here and apply them to your relationship, come visit us. Come join us. Don't just visit. Come join in the Relationship Revolution community, because this is the space where we are going, like, from the learning to the embodiment every single week with every single catalyst conversation. And I have got some really great plans that I am going to be bringing it for, like, bringing in even more into the Relationship Revolution community in 2026. So this is the time to join. Um, the investment is only $147 a month, and you get to uh, cancel anytime. This is not a long-term commitment. So if it's not for you, if it's not providing the tremendous value and opportunities for change that you're looking for, you don't have to stay. But I think you will. And if you want more than just, like the community, the practice, the activations, the accountability, if you want all of that and a accelerated container that's going to help you turn things around quickly, that is going to give you all of the pieces that you need in their fullness all at once, then you're going to want to be in the Be the One 6-week relationship accelerator. We're starting in February. There is an early bird incentives right now. I have a commitment to support at least 10 relationships in transforming. And so I would love for you to be there. Or if you know someone or love someone who could use that level of transformation, a woman who is ready to see her relationship finally change because she's tried everything else and it hasn't worked, a couple who needs some massive transformation to be able to survive so they're not still suffering, send them my way. I've got a link in the description for with more details about this program. It is our flagship program, the one that has created incredible transformation for couples. And it's upgraded and accelerated so that you can have those transformations fast. I'm so excited to be doing this program, y'all. And I really hope that you will join me if this work speaks to you. Until then, until next time, for another conversation in the Relationship Revolution. Last week of January, 5th shift of the revolution. This is a big one. We're going to talk about rebalancing in power and polarity, in masculine and feminine energy. And I don't think you're going to want to miss it. So that's it for me today. I'll see you next time for another Catalyst Conversation live every Friday at 12:30 Pacific. Until then, my dear ones, keep leading with love, and thank you for being here.